Alright, plant homies, back at ya with another video. This might be the first kind of controversial video, I guess you could say. When I got into houseplants and trying to learn all about them, I went to YouTube to do some learning, and I figured out there was a lot of influencers on there. Same thing with Instagram and Facebook, and all these people are just peddling bad information, bad products, and wasting everyone's time. So I'm gonna do a lot of videos talking about these weird facts that people think they come up with and kind of ease your mind a little bit. A lot of things people say are bad or things people say they don't like are just simply not true, and they're either easy to take care of, I guess you could say, or they're just personal opinion. And sometimes even like when new plants come out, a lot of influencers will bash those new plants because they can't afford them simply, which is crazy because the plants always come down in price. And a lot of plants people bash are actually really cool looking when you see them in person. I can't tell you how many people I've met that are like, I hate variegated anthuriums. And I know it's just because they hear a certain YouTuber say that on their channel. And I was honestly one of those in the beginning. I was like, whoa, variegated anthuriums aren't that cool, and they kind of take away the look from a normal anthurium. Then I saw one in person and I was like, dang, those are awesome, especially when they get to a more mature size. And now I'm obsessed with them, obviously. Anyways, the first thing I want to get into today is, are Thai-Cons hard to take care of? Do Thai-Cons rot easily? The answer is simply yes, they're easy to take care of, and no, they do not rot easily. So when I got into YouTube, Thai-Cons were becoming very popular, or when I got into looking at plants and getting information from YouTube, Thai-Cons were really popular, and they started getting tissue cultured more often. And a lot of people simply were just like, oh, Thai-Cons are super prone to rot. These videos came out that said they come from tissue culture with a certain bacteria in them that instantly kills them, and people are having problems keeping them alive. It's simply just all not true. Thai-Cons are super easy to take care of, especially when they get bigger. They're super cool looking, they get super big, and they're super awesome. Don't be afraid to buy a Thai-Con, especially now that you can get them at the store for like $20 to $50 for a smaller plant. They're honestly like Monsteras in general are some of the easiest plants to take care of, and they're some of the easiest plants to rehab too. You can basically get down to a nub with nothing there and regrow it into like a big beautiful plant within a couple months. And I'll show you a couple examples of what I have here. I have a couple different Thai-Con mutations, and I'll just prove to you through my experience and through I can show you in my own gardens that they're honestly easy to take care of, and you can take care of them a multiple of different ways. So yeah, like I was saying, a bunch of people on YouTube would say they're prone to rot, which is just simply not true. I think the first thing that happened was they were super expensive for a long time, like thousands of dollars. And then they came out in tissue culture, and you could buy one in a tissue culture bag or jar or whatever for like 20 bucks. And everyone's like, oh, I'm going to get a tissue culture Thai-Con. The thing is, tissue culture are not that easy to acclimate, especially when you get a low quality one. The quality really matters when it comes to tissue culture. And a lot of these people are just seeing dollar signs, and they try and tissue culture in their garage or in their bedroom or whatever, and they simply just don't know what they're doing. And then they sell them online, and you ask questions and they don't know what they're doing, and they give you bad answers. Like, they're like, oh yeah, they're super easy to acclimate, just this and yada yada yada. We can go into how to acclimate tissue cultures, a different video, but you can't just simply get the bag in the mail, take the plant out, rinse it off, and put it in some moss, and you're good to go. And if you don't acclimate them right, they'll just simply shrivel up and die. It's a lot better to wait till the plant comes down in price, or buy one that's already a starter size plant, maybe in like a 4-inch pot. You don't want to buy a tissue culture, especially if you're a newbie. You see the cheap price and you're like, oh, I'll do that. You're literally going to waste all your money. Start with tissue culture plants that are super cheap, that you don't mind if they die. So that's, I think, the first thing that happened. People are buying tissue culture plants. People were selling tissue culture plants that didn't know what they're doing, and the buyers didn't know what they're doing, so everyone failed. I think the biggest problem though is you see so many people online saying, "Oh, Thai cons are so prone to root. You don't want to get them wet at all. This and that," and then people get so nervous. One little brown leaf on their Thai con, and they switch up everything, and that's the number one killer of plants. People will get a Thai con, and within a week or two, one of the leaves will brown. You have to realize that's completely normal. Plants go through transplant shock. If you change the lighting, if you change the watering schedule, if you change the soil, they usually will get brown leaves, especially if you don't know what you're doing. If you really know what you're doing, you can acclimate them a little bit easier, and sometimes pretty much if you really know what you're doing, you won't lose leaves, and they'll stay pretty. But don't be alarmed if you do get a little browning or you lose some of the bottom leaves. That's really not a big deal. What you want to do is change your soil to something that you're comfortable with, something you already grow houseplants in. Tycons can pretty much grow in any type of soil, which I'll show you later. And if you have a certain way of propagating plants, stick to that method. Don't get one brown leaf or one little tiny brown spot, and then you look online or you go on Facebook and all these people are saying, "Oh, don't put it in water, it's gonna rot, it's gonna rot." You can literally put a Tycon cutting in water, and the roots will grow out, and then once you get secondary rooting, you can transplant it. You can put them in moss, you can put them in inorganic material like lava rock, you can put them in straight soil, you can plant them in the ground in your garden, and they will grow just fine. But the second you do something and 2 weeks later, okay, so let's say you get a Tycon. You put it in the soil you're comfortable with, and 2 weeks later you get a little brown spot. You post on Facebook and everyone's like, "Oh, Tycons are so prone to rot. You can't have them in regular soil. You need to put them in chunky soil. You need to put them in bark. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah." Then after 2 weeks of having your plant, right when it starts to get used to your soil, you completely change your soil to a more chunkier soil, which gets more airflow, yes, but then your roots have to reacclimate again. Then you still get brown leaves, and people are saying, "Oh, you're watering too much, you're watering too little." So you change your methods again, and you start watering more, you start watering less. Then your plant has to reacclimate again. Then people are like, "Oh, you need more light, put it closer to the window, take it farther away from the window. You need a grow light." Then you're changing it again. Once you change it 2, 3, 4, 5 times, your plant's just going to shrivel up and die because it never gets time to acclimate. It's never able to absorb water and nutrients the proper way. You have to plant the plant the way you're comfortable with and give it 4 to 6 weeks minimum to acclimate. I usually tell people around 2 months is when your plant will acclimate. If you notice the stem getting mushy and black, then you probably have a problem. But if you see the new leaf coming out healthy, if you see roots in there growing, your plant is just fine. A little browning is completely normal. Give it a month or two at least to settle into your conditions. So yeah, I think that's the number one killer of plants. People going online and getting all this bad info from influencers and people online who don't know what they're talking about. Something you can really do is go to sometimes a local nursery, but you want to make sure they have tropical indoor house plants and they know what they're doing, because some nurseries that sell mostly outdoor plants, you don't really want to go with what they have to say because they're kind of a different care, and indoor plants can be a little bit different. You want to find somewhere local to you that has a great little greenhouse setup, or they sell a lot of tropical indoor plants that look healthy, and ask them like, "Oh, do you have an expert here?" And find the person that sounds like they know what they're talking about and start from there. Or if you are looking online, look at people that have successful indoor gardens. Don't just get a comment from some random on Facebook and then you look at their pictures and they have a picture of one tiny house plant. That I can't tell you how many times people are like, "Oh yeah, I just got into houseplants 1 month ago," and they're commenting on every single picture they see, giving everyone advice, just spewing out exactly what they see on YouTube, which a lot of stuff on YouTube is not good information. Everything that I say, I want you to do your own research on, because who knows, maybe I'm tripping. But yeah, you want to make sure you can find someone local to you or find someone online that is successful with their garden. Don't listen to these randoms on the internet that have 1 or 2 plants that act like they're experts. Because a lot of these people are like, oh, the plants are dying, all my plants are dying, all my plants are dying. And they straight up say on YouTube, I don't know what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And they still are giving out information when their plants are dying. It's like, you can't be a bad golfer and then teach people how to golf unless you've been in the industry for like 10 plus years. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so don't panic with your Tycons or with any houseplants in general. Give them 4 to 6 weeks to acclimate. They'll be just fine if they have a little browning. Keep your fertilizer up. Keep steady watering. Don't let them fully dry out like some people say. I mean, these are tropical houseplants. Do you ever see a forest or a jungle fully dry out? It's pretty much wet all the time. But you don't need high humidity. House humidity is fine, as you'll see. If you're getting a Tycon, you probably have had houseplants before. A lot of people that buy Tycons, it's not their first houseplant. I understand that does happen. But if you're comfortable with houseplants in general, just stick to that same schedule that you do with your other houseplants. Tycons are super easy to take care of. They're no more prone to rot than any other houseplants. And I will show you right now. I have Tycons, different mutations, and I have them growing in different medium. The first one over here is grown in a bubble bucket. That's like a hydroponic setup, and I'll show you the roots. They're pretty much in water only. There's a little bit at the top. That's where it started. That's in leca, which is like a fired clay ball. But yeah, once you see the root base of this, you'll be like, oh wow, they can definitely grow in water. Then I have some in lava rock. I have some in soil, and I can show you my regular Monstera that's just planted in the ground. It's fruiting and looks amazing. So yeah, let's get into it. All right, so my first Tycon I want to show you is just grown in this simple 5-gallon bucket from Lowe's. It's a bubble bucket. There's just water in the bottom. We'll go through this setup a different day, but I just want to show you what the roots look like and prove to you that they can pretty much grow in just water. I also use just this standing light right here that's on the side. It doesn't get anything special. They can even grow in low light, to be honest. You don't need high light, you don't need silica, you don't need all this special stuff to grow a Tycon. This is one I got a few months ago from Home Depot. And I got another one too that I'll show you that's planted outside. So let's get into it. All right, so like I was saying, I got this one at Home Depot when it was way smaller. And I got 2 of them at the same time. I planted one in soil and I planted one in this bubble bucket just to see if one or the other would grow more successful or faster or bigger, faster, however you want to say it. This one definitely grew a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, but it's pretty much the same size as the one outside, as you'll see, but it's maybe like a little bit ahead of that one. But yeah, let me open it up and show you the size of the roots, and then I'll show you the water that it's growing in, and you'll kind of get a feel for growing Tycons or Monsteras in general in water. This is a little new leaf here you could see. All right, so here we go. These buckets can be a pain to open sometimes, but let's get into it. All right, guys. You might be surprised at this root ball. This thing is freaking insane. Pretty much when I open it and close it, I always smash some roots now. But check it out. That's about all of them. As you can see here, the root ball pretty much matches the size of the plant, and it's almost taken up the whole 5-gallon bucket. I'm gonna need to put it in a bigger bucket here coming pretty soon. And you can see there's a lot more fine roots in here, but yeah, so let me try and get this back in here, and then I'll show you what it's growing in. Alright, so this might be a little hard to film, but let's see what we can do. Pretty much it's just this little pond box, which is like used for growing plants in ponds. You'll see it when you open the lid. But then I just put leca in there, put the plant in there, and bada bing, bada boom. That's what the pond box looks like. And that's, you can't even see in there, but basically it's just water, and there's an air stone in there like what you use for a fish tank. And the bubbles will pop, and that will splash the bottom of this, and the roots will start growing, and eventually they just grow right into the water. There you can see is the little air pump like for fish tanks, and then you can see this little tube that goes up, and it goes right into the bucket, And at the bottom of the bucket, there's an air stone. So that just splashes up the water onto the leca. So the leca pretty much stays moist all the time. And like you can see in the bucket, the roots are just sitting in water now. So yeah, if Taikons were prone to rotting from being in water, you'd think all those roots would be rotted. But literally, there's a 5-gallon bucket full of roots just sitting in water, and it's doing just fine. So first myth kind of dispelled, or however you say it there. They do just fine growing in just water. All right, we're back in my room. I have a few different kinds of Taikon mutations in here. Most of them are growing in lava rock and perlite and pumice, so it's nothing too exciting. But I do that because it's just easier for me. I can water every day or every other day and just keep pumping them with fertilizer, and they grow a little bit faster. But let me show you a couple of them. My room is a mess, by the way. Sorry about that. As you can see, this is my Medusa right here. That's the original leaf from the original cutting. That's why it's a little yellow, but you can see the regular leaves on it are just fine. And there's even a new leaf coming in. So this version comes with a funky shaped leaf that looks super cool. You can look it up. It's the Taikon Medusa, but you can see there's like little scars kind of on the bottom. So those scars kind of make the leaves like grow up, and it kind of looks like a Medusa head. But yeah, you can see here we got lava rock, perlite, and pumice. You can see the roots are growing crazy in there, and everything looks good. So you can grow them in inorganic material like lava rock or perlite, and you can just leave a little water at the bottom. What I do is basically water them till that bottom dish fills up, and then I let that go down. When it's dry, then I water them again. You can basically water them every day or every other day, every 3 days. You can keep water in there 24/7 and if you want, but I like to let it go down to the very bottom, then refill it back up. So there's one Taikon. Here's another Taikon I have in the same setup. You can see the roots are going crazy in there and look super nice. You can see there's also even a bunch of algae at the bottom. I probably should clean it, but it's really not a big deal if you get some algae in there. A lot of people trip out on that, but it's really not a big deal. This one's a little hard to film because I just propped it. Well, I propped it like a million times, but this is the Taikon Platinum. You can see it has some nice like Wagyu style variegation, and it has also a sharper leaf shape. So you can see there's a little bit of browning. That I think was actually from pest damage. But you can see it's growing in a nice big like 8 or 10 inch pot down there. And you can see the new growth coming in right here. Actually, we'll get a little close up on that. But yeah, basically growing the same way. Another Taikon mutation, super variegated, but super duper healthy. It's in the back, so I don't want to like take it out and do any crazy filming on it, but you can get a good gist of what it looks like. So there's a little close-up of the new growth coming out. Right there is where I cut it, and that's the new growth coming out. So you can see it's nice and juicy and nice and healthy. So that's the new growth on the Taikon Platinum. Another healthy Taikon growing in my room. All right, of course we got the lawnmowers going next door, but this is the other Taikon I told you I bought from, I think Home Depot or whatever. The bubble bucket one, and this one I bought at the same time. So you can see they're pretty much the same size here. But the bubble bucket one just gets a leaf usually like a month early. But yeah, this one is growing in pure soil. You can see the soil I use is like a 60% sand base. And then I put a little of the peat moss in there, and then a lot of perlite and pumice. And then this one's in an air pot. You don't really need to do that. I just wanted to test it. It's actually kind of annoying because the air roots like pop out of the little holes and you have to keep cutting them. But yeah, so here's one grown in soil that looks healthy and amazing. This one's actually growing outside, and look how perfect the leaves look. I don't use bug spray or anything on this, so it probably has pests on it. It gets sprayed by the hose. It's in a little bit of a greenhouse, not for the humidity, but just to stay out of the full sun, because this area does get some pretty strong sun. But yeah, look how healthy this guy is. In soil. That's a 3-gallon pot. This guy's looking amazing. So no, they're not going to rot if you put them in soil. They're not going to rot if you put them in water. They don't need to sit in orchid bark, the chunky, airy soil. They can be in a mineral base. They can be in soil. They can be indoors, outdoors, high light, low light. They're very easy to take care of. Last thing I want to show, I know this isn't a Thai con, but it's literally the same thing minus the variegation. And now you can see, oh, it's even got a new flower there. It's kind of hard to film because there's so many leaves, but there's a flower, an inflorescence, and then you can see all the fruits. And this is just growing outdoors in my garden in a little raised bed that's just on top of tile. And if they weren't healthy, they wouldn't be producing fruit. So boom, look how nice this guy looks. Look at all those fenestrations. Super holy guy, super fruity guy. Would you look at that? All right, so I hope that helps ease your mind and proves to you that Thai cons aren't super hard to take care of. They're not prone to rot. They're not some magical unicorn plant that's prone to rot while all the other monsteras in the world do just fine. And for some reason, a Thai con's prone to rot. I don't know who came up with that idea and why people actually think that's true. I mean, I know why people think it's true because it's all over YouTube and all over Facebook and everything. But I hope seeing one growing in water, one growing in soil, and some growing in a mineral-based soil of just lava rock and perlite and pumice, all three different completely opposite mediums, and they're all looking perfectly fine. What you need to do is fertilize them. You need to make sure they get water. You need to make sure they get light. Like I was saying before, they don't need a super duper strong amount of light, but you don't want to put them in a dark corner in your family room that gets barely any light. You want to put them relatively close to a window. You can even put them right next to a window and you'll see the leaves will grow right towards the light. You want them to be able to see the sky out your window. That's kind of like a little trick I learned, which is relatively true. So if you're like have any experience with plants growing indoors, just do exactly what you do with your other plants and do it with a Thai con and it'll be just fine. Don't overreact and start switching the mediums and switching the soil and everything and switching the watering and everything. Do it just like how you do your other houseplants. If you notice it drying out, give it a little bit of water. You don't need to pour water on it till water shoots out the bottom like a crazy typhoon or whatever. Ooh, got a little Monstera juice on my little sticky icky. But yeah, they just need the basic care just like any other houseplants. They do get a little large, so that's something you want to keep in mind. After about like a year, the one I showed you in the bubble bucket and the one I showed you outside, I think are like 4 months old from a plant like this big. So they do grow relatively big and they start slow for sure, but once they start to get size, they don't really slow down. In about 2 or 3 years, you'll have one as big as like the fruiting one I have outside. Like I said, I cut that one in half. So if I didn't cut it in half, imagine how big it would be. Don't be afraid to get a Thai con, especially because they're super cheap at the store. They're super awesome plants, and there's a lot of different mutations out there, like the Medusa, like the Cup, like the Platinum. There's all kinds of really cool ones that you can get into and collect them all just like Pokemon or whatever baseball cards. And yeah, I think once you get one, once you spend a couple months with it and you're comfortable, you'll be super excited and you'll love them forever, just like I do. Anyways, don't listen to all those crazy YouTubers. Don't even listen to me. Do your own research. Find someone local to you that has a successful garden. Get out there and do it yourself. Peace out for now, plant homies.